Hello everyone, and welcome to our next video. In the previous video we moved some tests from our signup route to our models route to make sure that we have a more solid approach to avoiding saving users with duplicated emails in the database. Before we were doing this check in the signup, so the body of my request handler, but as it turns out I don't want to only check for duplicated emails in my signup or in my signup route, but also in other possible routes. So this is something that is of a more general logic. I want to check this at the model level. So I moved the logic to users and so to the user model, and we used a pre-save hook in Mongoose for us to test if there is a user in the database with the email that was received via the user.create method, and if there is, we will throw an error saying that the email is already in the database. Well, here is nice, we throw an error, but if I look at this signup route, there are a couple of places where I'm just returning a send status from our route handler. So it would be better if we already do some groundwork to allow to handle this kind of things with custom errors. So it would be much cleaner for us and also much easier to standardize this across microservices if I have a shared customized error pattern or customized a bunch of customized error classes that are shared between my microservices, and then I use them when convenient. So to begin with, because we are using this whole async await logic within Express, we need to install a package, and this package is express async errors. So this is not something that is strictly required. You could write this wrapper yourself, but I just find it easier since someone already did it to install it. And of course we need to import it at the top of our file. I was trying for quite a while to make this work, and it was everything fine, but the only thing that was missing was this import here. So now that we have imported express async errors, let's go back to our test and let's see what happens if we will run the tests. We will start the test watcher and everything should be working fine because I didn't change anything in the code apart from what I just told you. Yes, everything is still passing as expected. Now let's come to our signup route and let's try something different. Here I'm gonna throw a new error. I'm gonna throw a new error and let's see what happens. Oops, things started failing, but they started failing beautifully. Why do I say that they started failing beautifully? It's because it's only the status code that is different from what is being received. So in my tests for the signup.test.ts, I'm expecting a 422 as the response code. And here when I throw an error, as you can see, I'm getting a 500. Now why am I getting a 500? Well, if you go to the Express documentation, you will see that their default error handler returns a 500. So if I throw any error within any of my routes and I don't have a custom error handler or a custom error handler middleware, Express's default error handler is going to kick in and it's going to send me a 500, an internal server error. So this is not what we want. We actually want to send an error of 422, at least for these cases here. So let's start writing our own custom error handling middleware. So I come here, I'll just create a folder, middlewares. I think this makes sense to call it middlewares, and this is going to be error handler. And here so what is a middleware? So middleware is just a function, right? And for Express, the way that it differentiates between an error handling middleware and a normal middleware is by the number of parameters that we are passing to the function. So if I'm passing 4 parameters, this is going to be recognized as an error handling middleware. If I'm passing, however, 3 parameters without this error here, then this is just going to be a standard middleware for Express. Now you see that when I define these things here, the parameters, all of it is in red, and it's because TypeScript is complaining. It doesn't know what is the type of these parameters. So for the first one, I can simply say it as an error, but for the other ones, I need to import the request. And that is not from Express Validator, sorry, that's from Express. I need to import request, response, and next function. Is going to be a next function. It is going to be a response, and this is going to be a request. Okay, now I have a basic error handler middleware, and let's see what happens. Of course, I still didn't hook this up in my application, but maybe we just do it now. Let's export this as a default error handler. And then within my middlewares, again, I'm going to create a index.ts file, and I'm going to export default as error handler from .error handler. And then here in my app.ts, I can use then this error handler. Now, the important thing is that I should use it after all my declarations of routes, right? So if I use it here, then it should work correctly. Of course, here it's not going to do anything. Everything will, maybe we'll even see some weird behavior because now we have a custom error handler, but I think this is going to be hanging exactly. I expected it to do so because we don't return anything, right? We just, our request is stuck at this process. So if there is an error, what I want to do is res.send status 422, and this I will return. Otherwise, I want to say I want to send a status of 500, let's say. And why do I do that? It's because here this will change, right? So this will change. We will use this to handle custom errors in a much more efficient way. So let's see what's going to happen. This is not going to reset because basically it's going to kill everything. Timeout, exactly. Timeout async callback was not invoked within the 5,000 milliseconds. So it's going to kill the request. Let's start this again, and let's see what's going to happen with our tests. Very nice. So now our tests are passing, but the signup route doesn't need to know about how the error should be handled, right? Because it could be the case that here I would like to throw an or I would like for error A. So let's say that I have something like this: error A should send a 400. Error B should send a 422, and error C should send a 500. If I implement this logic of res.send status within my route, I will need to duplicate this in every route that I implement. What we just did was to extract this whole idea of defining or deciding which status code to send. We abstracted this. So now the signup route just needs to throw the custom error that we want, and we'll start coding in the next video some custom errors for us here. And as long as it throws this error, and this error is caught by the error handler middleware, then the error handler middleware is going to execute this logic for us to check, okay, error A, error B, or error C will send some codes, and I will take care of it. You don't need to worry about it, signup route, I will just take care of it. And in fact, we will do it a little bit better, that we will use classes, right? So we will create custom errors that are going to extend this base error, and that will have some logic and some inherent information or some internal information about which status code to send, which message to send, so that even the error handler, it doesn't need to be aware of what is the specific status code for one error or another. So I will stop this video here because I think that we did at least a bit of progress in terms that now we can throw new errors within our application. And in the next video, we will continue with implementing our first custom error. Okay, thank you very much and see you in the next video. Bye bye.